So what happened before Ed Shin formed the partnership? Because as I understand it, he came to the partnership in debt. He owed some money.
Well, so great question. So nothing actually, or at least they didn't know anything had happened before they formed the partnership. But almost right after the ink is dry and they both leave their companies, there was what appeared originally to be an accounting irregularity, which I think is how it was first put, an accounting irregularity with lead point. And what that turned into is the owner got into the books and realized that there was not only a whole bunch of clients that went with Ed, and that's a common thing, and that sparks more than one dispute out there. But there's also a bunch of missing money, and in fact, the money, the closer they looked, the more money they found was missing, and it wound up totaling about $700,000. So right after Chris essentially attaches himself to Ed, there are these financial problems that started arising in Riverside County. So they get in there and 100,000 turned into 200,000, turned into three. Pretty soon, this is a substantial amount of money, enough that it attracted the attention of the district attorney's office in Riverside County. There's a criminal investigation, and as you can imagine, a whole slew of lawsuits over this missing money. Meanwhile, Chris he's almost learning about this in real time because he worked for a different company when he met Ed, and he signed on for this. He's totally unaware of it. Now, all of a sudden, there's lawsuits where, as partner, he's being named as a co-defendant, and this idyllic, kind of awesome surfer lifestyle suddenly has this huge injection of stress, and he's not sure. How much of this is going to drag him down, how much his company is liable for it now. And remember, all this money, and his brother has moved down. He's invested in the future, bringing his family down. So Chris decides he wants to protect his interests. And essentially what the arrangement was, Chris was the creative guy. So he'd surf in the mornings, and then he'd work late into the night doing the creative end of these advertising campaigns. Ed was the business guy. So Ed actually owned 55% of the business, and Chris trusted him. So it was like, hey, you handle the books, you handle the business side, I'll do all the campaigns together. We'll combine our talents, we'll make money for ourselves instead of these other companies. That was the idea. So now Chris has no access to the books, and he's concerned that this is going to drag him down. He's worried about his reputation. He's worried about all kinds of the professional implications of this. But then the criminal case progresses to a point that Ed Shin actually pleads guilty to embezzlement. And he's ordered by a Superior Court judge in Riverside County to pay back $700,000. And he's given 5 months to do it, okay, which is unusual. And he's allowed to do some custody time on weekends, but he's essentially allowed to remain free so that he can operate his business. But there's a sentence hanging over his head of 16 months in state prison. So he's going to do what that means in California, depending on our crazy legislature. You're going to do at least 50% of that time, and depending on the way it's charged, up to 80%. So he's looking at least 8 months actual prison time if he does not make good on this restitution order. So there's this big, gigantic axe hanging over Ed's head, and Chris knows about this, and he's, the nightmares all the lawsuits are a nightmare for him. And then he's worried that to come up with this money, and Ed should have plenty of money because Ed is also controlling the accounts.
Right.
But Chris starts to worry that maybe he's going to, he doesn't want any of his money to go to pay Ed's debt, right? So he hires a lawyer named Ernesto Aldebar, really, really good guy who specializes in business disputes. And they start negotiating his ability to look at the books and to have more control over the money. And he wants to co-sign checks and things like that. And so this goes on and on for a few months as they're negotiating this. And all of a sudden, Ernesto gets an email from Chris saying,
on June 4th,
hey,
2010. Friday, June 4th,
That's
2010.
Right. At, I think it's 6:10 in the evening. He gets this email saying, I've decided to let Ed buy me out of the company, and essentially begins telling friends and family. Everybody starts getting these emails saying, hey, I've decided that I'm gonna live my dream. Been talking about it for years. I'm sailing off into the sunset. I met a woman in Las Vegas named Tiffany Taylor, And I've decided to sail to the Galapagos Islands with Tiffany Taylor. And yeah, that's when I became involved pretty soon after that, which is also kind of interesting.
Which is a total head snap moment because everyone thought he was in love and even engaged or close to engaged to another woman. And he wasn't, from what his parents said, the kind of guy who was like, yeah, hot Playboy babe. He wasn't that kind of guy.
Right, right. So Ed loved Las Vegas. They would do a lot of business junkets for their company out there. Chris was not into the flash. And we actually had a woman that worked for the company named Jennifer Matthews, who, when she testified about Chris and she just described Chris, she said that when they would do these business junkets in Vegas, Chris would go back to his room and go to sleep. And Ed would be up until 2 and 3 in the morning doing the Vegas thing, which I'll get into in a bit, I guess. But yeah, this was a head snap moment because he loved his soon-to-be fiance. They'd been dating for a while, and he flew his brother down. He's supposed to pick up his brother at the airport. His brother's flying back into town, and Chris didn't show up. And all of a sudden, he gets this email that, "Hey man, I've sailed off into the sunset with this beautiful Playboy centerfold, and I'll catch you on the flip side," basically.
Wow. And the fiance too, or about to be fiance, got dumped via email.
Right, and dumped in the most brutal, harsh way. It was done via email, and it was from an email that was apparently associated with Chris, and it was basically, "I don't love you anymore. I've met somebody else, and we're done." And which was, at the end, looking back, it was diabolically clever to do that, because now she was, first she was devastated, and then she was very angry, as you can sort of imagine. So, plus she'd had a million conversations with him about his dream of sailing off into the sunset. She just always figured it would be with her.
Right. So was it at this point, I would think, like in my own life, I would think at this point, if somebody near and dear to me sent these emails, even knowing that he had a penchant to wander and, he just had wanderlust, I think I'd say, I don't know. I'm not sure. Hindsight's 2020. But did anybody in the family right away say something's off?
So I think right away, everybody was shocked. They were shocked that they would do this. But then when it settled in, they all, they knew about him. They knew about his dream of surfing the world, and they knew about his trips to Indonesia. And, at first everybody was shocked and disappointed that he would do that. But, the first couple of weeks, this was it was consistent in a way, not him leaving everybody in the lurch. They were completely flabbergasted at the way he broke up with Erica, his girlfriend. But, it kind of made sense. Now, what happened was Paul said, "Hey, after a couple of," and these emails, they're voluminous. They went back and forth. There were emails to his brother. There were emails to his mother, emails to his father separately. So these things were ongoing. And the "I'm sailing off into the sunset" thing turned into, "Hey, Galapagos were awesome. Now I'm heading down to Tierra del Fuego, and I'm going to check out these islands off Argentina." And this was an ongoing narrative. And Paul, at one point, literally, I think he started with, "Dude, at least show me a photo of you and this new woman, Tiffany Taylor." So he gets a picture of Tiffany Taylor getting out of a swimming pool. And Tiffany Taylor, it is what Paul is looking for is a photo of the two of them together, like on the boat, or, and what he gets what looks like a modeling photo of Tiffany Taylor, who's gorgeous, getting out of a swimming pool in a bikini. So that, he asked for a photo, and he got a photo, but it wasn't really what he was looking for. And so, 1 month turns into 2, turns into 3. Now his mother is starting to worry, and the emails are getting darker and darker.
Credit card rewards like cash back can empower families with extra savings while they deal with the rising price of groceries and gas. But our sponsor, the Electronic Payments Coalition, says some DC politicians are partnering with corporate megastores to take the cash back rewards away from families during skyrocketing inflation. Specifically, they say the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill would take billions from American families, lining corporate pockets instead. Learn more at electronicpaymentscoalition.org and see for yourself if you want to protect credit card rewards and tell DC politicians to oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. That's electronicpaymentscoalition.org. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.